Seelbach, are you ready to unseal your box? Seelbach, are you ready to unseal your box? Seelbach, are you ready to unseal your box?
Welcome, everyone. I'm Blake from Seelbach, and we're back with, I'll call it a monumentous occasion on the Seelbach Weekly Review. So before we jump in, you'll probably notice Brian's Christmas tree is no longer in the background. So glad to see that 2026 has, Christmas is over. Brian's now removed it. And here we are. You beat February. So the odds on Klarna or whatever, whoever was betting on over there, they lost out. So
look, I had told you before, and I don't remember if we talked about it on here, but my wife did want me to get a second Christmas tree for both floors. And so our main Christmas tree was upstairs. It got taken down almost immediately. Down in the basement, that isn't, as widely used. It just took a little bit longer. That said, I do have a friend who is
no judgment, no explanation needed. Just wanted to call it out just slightly.
But it's down. It's down, and we're here, so
Christmas
that is room to celebrate. Household. Yeah. You know what else people should celebrate? Going down below, smashing that like button, and subscribing to the channel if they haven't, so they don't miss these weekly review videos that we do every week.
Absolutely. And it's slowly building. I love to see the comments. Love to hear people asking questions, calling things out, a few people noticing the new intro, which is fun. But yeah, these are fun. I think they're working out well. So as we roll into episode 27, but yeah, a big week.
27. I think this is 22. I think it's episode 22, isn't it?
Could be wherever we're at.
It's end up whatever number it is more than we realized we had already done so far.
Well, that's what I thought. We were guessing like 10 or 12, and we're like, no, we're at like 26 last week. But we'll figure that out on the back end. But no, it's a fun week. We've got some really cool things. It's in a mix of new products, barrel picks, releases. So let's jump in. First one we have coming Monday is the new toasted or Barrell Craft Spirits Toasted Dovetail. So if you don't remember, Barrell released Dovetail several years back, and I have like 27 tabs open. So bear with me, because some of these things I have to read them. I can't go off memory, but Dovetail was a blend of 10-year Indiana, 11-year Tennessee bourbon. It was then finished in California cab, port, rum casks, and I don't know exactly how long it aged there. So then on the toasted version, which we have now, that blend then went into toasted American oak to age for an additional 33 months. So we're talking somewhere in the range of like 15-ish-year-old whiskey. It's not age stated because of how the product, like you can't continue an age statement on a second use barrel. But really old whiskey, really tasty. Dovetail was always one of my favorite releases from Barrell Craft Spirits, just because I feel like it brings so much in. It's just that flavor bomb. So to add the toasting on top of it just really amplifies it. So if you're a fan of Barrell and some really funky, interesting finishes, this is one to check out.
Absolutely. You took the words out of my mouth. I've not tried this toasted one, but I know there's a huge, fan base for folks who like seagrass. I was always more of a Dovetail fan myself over seagrass, so excited to get this one out and get in some folks' hands.
Which, I feel like we have a rule at Seelbach, which is do our own tasting notes, do the majority of our own media. Barrell is one where I'm like, their tasting notes are going to be better than ours. Like, they take it very serious. Trip and Nick over there do an incredible job. So they describe it as layering vanilla bean, honeycomb, and caramelized sugar over its hallmark notes of dark cherry, fig, and cocoa, roasted marshmallow and toffee meeting baking spice and toasted hazelnuts with hints of coconut, leather, and sweet tobacco unfurl with each sip. give me a bourbon that unfurls, and I'm sold every time. I love the unfurling process in
Oh
whiskey,
my
but
gosh.
no, they're always spot on with their notes. So I'm excited for that one, and it should be fun. So kind of one where I'm like, do we need to qualify with? We don't have a ton. You better be on the site at 3 on Monday, ready to go. I don't know. We don't have a ton of bottles, but um, we'll see how it goes. It's one I think could move really fast just because we haven't seen Dovetail in a while.
I'm sorry, give me just 1 second. I hate working from home.
So the next up in the list, I'm very interested to hear people's thoughts on this because if you follow the whiskey world and the bourbon world in particular, this company has not had the best run of headlines over the last call it 4 to 6 months. So we have our very first Uncle Nearest single barrel. And we went back and forth. Like we'll be honest and transparent about this. We went back and forth of they've got a lot going on. Like if you don't follow the they're under receivership with the court. There's some loans that need to be repaid. And they've always been a very public company, so they've handled it how they do, which is in a very public way. But we went back to it and we're like, you know what? The Uncle Nearest story is really important to the bourbon world and the whiskey world in particular. Nearest Green was the African American man, first distiller who taught Jack Daniels how to distill. This brand was then revived in his honor. And we kind of looked at it and it's like, hey, is the whiskey good? Is the Uncle Nearest story still true? And we're like, yeah, let's bring it in. We've got plenty of companies that are going through things and issues at different times. So we went with it. So we're excited to bring in our first Uncle Nearest barrel. So it is Tennessee bourbon. It's 127 proof, and one of these kind of more traditional. It's not Dickel, but more traditional Tennessee mash bills, which is 80% corn, 10% rye, 10% malted barley. And if you followed like some other brands that source from this distillery, I know Pursuit had a single barrel from this distillery that ended up being like the best barrel of the year in 2024, I believe it was. So cranking out some fantastic bourbon. Granted, it does come with some interesting headlines over the last few months, but I'm excited for it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always a big fan of this 80-10-10 Tennessee stuff. I feel like anytime we try it, I always feel like it punches above its age. I feel like it's got really great flavor. Again, like the fact that it is not, Uncle Nearest distilled means that it can stand as a product outside of what you said,
Mhm.
all the headlines in the name. And I think it's still true that I would not be surprised if you started seeing more Tennessee bourbon or Tennessee
Mhm.
whiskey coming to the market with a lot of the places that we work with increasing over the years. I think the
Yeah.
distillate's just that good. So I also, stripping everything else away, am looking forward to this one coming out.
Yeah, I think it's like a new type of transparency that we don't get into as much on Seelbach. Like we always want to know source and grains and distillation process, aging process, and this is just like the next layer of like, hey, there's going to be some things going on. Like it's a weird time in the bourbon and whiskey world, but if the whiskey and bourbon's still good and we can get it in and get it to customers, like at the end of the day, that's what we're all about. So
Right.
should be an interesting one. Just another reason to jump into the comments below and let us know what you think. Like, are you still buying
Mhm.
Uncle Nearest? Are you buying them more because of what's going on? Are you pulling back because of everything that's happened? So we'll see. The truth of how it'll do, we'll find out on Tuesday or Wednesday. I forget which day it
That's
is,
right.
but yeah, should be a good one. So that'll be Wednesday, Tuesday for pro members, and then you know bringing back a favorite into 2026. First time we're having that something from this distillery this year. We have two new 8-year single barrels from Ben Holiday. If you don't know, Ben Holiday is in Missouri. They have the Holiday Soft Red Wheat as well as Ben Holiday. They've been distilling really just kind of quietly for a long time. Their history goes back probably 100 years or so. And even though it's the distillery's changed hands and all those things, but I'd say 3 years ago, they resurrected the Ben Holiday name and came out with the brand. And I think surprised a lot of people. It has a lot of the classic Kentucky bourbon notes. And Brian, when Brian and I were out there, you pull onto their campus and you'd swear you're in Kentucky. It's big rick houses, big still, rolling grass hills, and they have all the things going on. And I think people are really coming around to, man, they're making some good bourbon in Missouri. So these two barrels, they're like I said, they're both 8 years old. One's 127.7 proof. One's 123.9 proof. We've got a fifth floor aged barrel, which is the 127, and a fourth floor aged barrel, which is the 123. And then Ben Holiday has a mash bill of, that is actually
73, 15, 12.
Yeah, 73, 15, 12. That's the same as the soft red wheat. They just do the wheat instead of rye on that. But man, I love some Ben Holiday. These barrels are always fantastic. We blew through them super quick when we released 2 8 years last year. And it just, that continuation of craft distilleries having older age statements and products to get out to market, it should be fun.
Yeah, this is one y'all can chime in again down in the comments. This is one, I can't remember if we talked about on last week's episode a little bit too, but this is a brand that came up. I had put them in my craft list based off of your suggestion for the blinds before going on, and it did really, really well. But then I had someone had commented and they were like, well, they're not craft. And it is true. I mean, there is a long history to ownership there and whatnot. I think we still see it as, for our intents and purposes, like a craft producer. I'd love to hear from other folks too about what exactly do they use, like actual definition defining what a craft producer is, ownership and production. Is it just production methods? Is it, if you're outside of Kentucky, you're a shoe in? I'd be curious to hear what other folks have as, kind of their ruling for what would or would not be considered craft. But I think it's still true to be said that it's produced under a watchful eye and is putting out some really exciting whiskey, not from Kentucky, that can rival whiskey coming out of Kentucky, Indiana, Tennessee, and the likes.
Yeah, I always fall back to the camp of heritage and non-heritage. I feel like as people are growing and expanding and this and that, it gets hard to stick with a craft definition. But it's like you've got the heritage distilleries who 8 to 10 distilleries making 98 to 99% of the bourbon. And then you've got this other 1% who they could be pretty good size, but they're just not. They're not Beam. They're not Buffalo Trace. They're not Heaven Hill. And it's kind of like the heritage seems to be a better line in the sand to be able to draw when we're in 2026. Because what if your favorite craft producer gets acquired? Like, do you kick them out of craft? Or like, well, the production methods are still the same. So, but yeah, would love to hear people's thoughts on that one. And then that brings us to our last release of the week, which is another new brand. We have a brand that's new to Seelbach, which is Houghton Young. Seen them a lot of places. They're an interesting one, like really great story. That they bottle at Bardstown. They source from a few different places. Norm Houghton and Don Young. You may recognize Norm's name if you've watched the movie Black Hawk Down. It's based on his experiences in that battle, and it's just a really cool backstory. And they created this brand and cigar brand, and they're doing some great. They're doing some really great bottlings and finishes. And, one of the big ones that we're seeing right now is some of this American whiskey or light whiskey. So we have their, I guess I should also mention that they have a lot of their team is in Jacksonville as well. So been able to get to know them well, and really great team. And so they approached us about carrying some of their bottles. And I really fell in love with the Jack Carr 16 year. Like I said, it's that American or light whiskey out of Indiana. And it's just so good. You know, I always tell people, I'm like, if you like high proof vanilla frosting, you're gonna love this bottle.
Mhm.
So we have that one as well as two wine finish barrels that they did. One was Cabernet finished, the other one was Petit Syrah finished. Um, Both from the same American whiskey batch. But really cool story, really great whiskey. And just in talking with them, I know they have some really exciting new releases coming up over the next 6-12 months. So excited to finally get them on the site, get them out to the Seelbach audience. And I know people are going to be chasing that 16-year American whiskey. So it's a fun one to bring on.
For sure. Yeah, I've got them in the house. I've yet to dig into them. My buddy had tried me on the 15-year, which I want to say
Mhm.
that was, I mean, it's the same thing, right? It just was
Yep,
before it
just a
was
year
16
older.
years old.
Yep.
And I remember really
Mhm.
enjoying it. So, and I am also a sucker for these, whether it's from Penelope or we've had them from Bull Run as well. I mean, these
Mhm.
are just solid products. So, looking forward to diving into those, especially these wine finish ones.
Yeah, for sure. So that'll do us for the week of, man, I should have known this, for the week of January 25th, the last Sunday email video of January 2026. So hard to believe we're almost to February already.
Crazy.
But a lot of great releases already, and excited to see what else is to come the rest of the year. So Brian, as always, thank you for joining me. And yeah, any closing thoughts on the week?
I would just love to hear what you guys are most looking forward to, or just in general, what you're most looking forward to in 2026. If there's other things that are coming out this year that you're looking forward to, whether it is or
Mm,
isn't on our radar, we won't know. But leave those down
yeah.
below so that we know if there are other releases that we should have on our radar as we continue on in 2026. And yes, let us know what you're most looking forward to releasing here at Sealbox this week. So thanks for having me. Thanks always for everybody. Thanks again, everybody, for tuning in, and we'll see you next time in February.
See you next week. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers, guys.